The Silly Goose Gang Podcast.
So, episode 60 of the Silly Goose Gang Podcast, and we're delighted to be joined again by Barry Gibson, Sambo champ and crusher of cans on social media. So, Barry, thanks very much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me back again, lads. I was really humbled the first time round. Now I'm just thinking you're desperate for guests now.
That's it. We're on the slow decline now. We're just getting it. Anyway, we're going to ask your missus next week if she wants to come on and have a blather. Yeah, so what's Barry Gibson's toilet habits like? So we can just do it. That's the stage we're getting now. But no, it's I think we said after the last time we had left so many things untouched that we were still amateurs. Then obviously now we're highly professional. We'd left so many things just untouched. So we thought, yeah, let's get Barry back on and talk some serious training.
Yeah, yeah.
Not that any of us know what we're doing, but you can break nails. So
yeah, well, I wouldn't class myself as the oracle of training, to be fair. But I remember last time I prattled on that much about Sambo, we ran out of time, didn't we? That was the thing.
Well, you know what? Back then, it's fucking a year ago. That was like it was 1847. No, but like back then, we really had no idea still we don't really know what we're doing, but back then we really, really didn't know what we're doing. So, we kind of just ran out of things to say, and you kind of get confused, and then you fucking, it's like, going to the gym or, learning Sambo or learning Jiu-Jitsu, after a week, you're like, I fucking know, I can't remember what we just did. You kind of you confuse yourself, and you don't know where to go from there. So once you're a year in, then you can understand what's going on a little bit. So that's where we are now. But yeah, no, it was. I spoke to. I think. Do you know Brian Muckles from
yeah, I know Brian. Yeah,
I know Brian, and he was. When we spoke about having you on the first time, I was speaking to Brian, and he said, he spoke very highly of you, and you were a bit of a pioneer of the old strength and conditioning in the northeast of England. So and I completely forgot to talk to you about it the last time.
Oh, it's nice of Brian to say that. It's nice. I like Brian. I like him even more now, obviously. That's nice of you to say.
Yeah. So yeah, what was where did the whole thing start? Because it feels like now everybody's a strength and conditioning coach, or everybody's. I've said it so many times. I fucking hate the word PT. I hate that. So like you were. Like, because you worked with Ross way back, and he's good. He's good run at MMA fights, I guess. So you were obviously well into this way back when it was kind of strength and conditioning was kind of a myth that was kind of whispered about, and nobody really knew what it meant. So what was the entry point for you?
I'd always took an interest in because obviously, as I said to you last time, I've kind of trained and been involved in judo and martial arts from being 6. So the conditioning kind of aspect always fascinated me, and I always liked the idea of because I never thought of myself as really technically gifted, but I used to think if I could prepare myself as best as I could for competitions or for any kind of performance, really, in terms of training, if you were fit and strong. You can kind of, you can weather the storm a little bit, and it gives you a competitive edge. And it's like that old phrase of hard work. What did it get? Is it hard work beats talent when talent don't work hard? And it's that kind of thing. I used to always think, well, if I outwork everybody even in my own mind, if I feel like I'm outworking everybody, I'll do well. And that kind of served as well, because as I say, I wasn't massively technical, but I could, I can play the game well, but I knew I was strong enough and fit enough to last for my kind of sport at the time. And I tried to instill that in the people I've trained. And because most of my jobs throughout my adult life have been like, when you have to leave school and have to start adulting properly and be a grown up and stuff. And I was lucky enough to do what I love for a business. And I mean, hands up, I was a shit businessman while I had got a fit. I made some dodgy decisions, and looking back, I wouldn't have done some of the things that I did at the time. But it was great for a period. And I started just running private, the term that you don't like, private training, personal training sessions. I started running sessions for people at the time who were like just members of my judo club. I started working with the Masters Judo squad that were at a judo club at South Shields, and then I took on. At one point I had the audacity a few times to do a couple of ebooks and DVDs. And the first DVD I did was just a collection, really, with a good pal of mine who was like a graphic designer, and I'll give him a shout out actually in case he watches this. Stevie Reeves, hi mate. He put the DVD together with me, and he filmed loads of workouts outside and in the judo club using different bits of kit and stuff. And it was nobody was doing that kind of thing over here at the time. It was like sled pulling, kettlebells. Kettlebells weren't as mainstream, anywhere near as mainstream. I'm going back like maybe 2004, 2003, 2004. So it wasn't as mainstream then. Sled pulling, swinging sledgehammers into tires, all what was classed as old school training, but hadn't really been touched here. So I started all of that sort of stuff, and that first DVD, Ross bought it from a shop in Sunderland before he was in the UFC. He was still fighting on like Total Combat and stuff down here, in Sunderland, and he messaged me out of the blue and asked if I would do some training sessions. And he was working on a building site at the time. He was a bricklayer. So I started working with him, and I did a few sessions with him, and then he got laid off. And he contacted me and he said, look, I'm really sorry, I'm going to have to cancel my sessions. I'm not working at the minute. I've been laid off. I can't afford it anymore, And I'd said, look, I want to do this as a business. I want to make this a thing for me. And I was working as a lecturer at a college at the time. And I said, I want to do this as my thing. I want this to be my full-time job. So how about I keep you on, and every time you fight, or I get you a couple of Grapple Fit T-shirts, you wear those, and you become a billboard and tell everybody how much you love us and how great I am and blah, And he said, yeah, he was. So I said I could keep him training. So I gave him workouts when he was kind of going to be training down the country, because he was still trying to do that and set himself up as a pro. And not long after that, he got into the Ultimate Fighter. And in the meantime, I'd started working with Andrew Fisher, who's another, like a Bellator Cage Warriors vet. And he's like, Andrew's been around for a long time, and he's doing really well again. And it started from there, kind of snowballed with the MMA fighters, really, because I'd worked with judo players, and I had a couple of regular kind of, shall we say, normal people that don't like getting punched in the face. And
those weirdos.
those freaks that don't think it's therapeutic to fill your mates in. But yeah, Ross and Andrew were kind of the two first people that I ever worked with, and from that kind of sport, if you like, and it snowballed from there. Obviously, he went into the Ultimate Fighter, and then we hadn't heard anything, and all of a sudden he was in the final, So then it was it just snowballed from there. Once he won that was just like, that was me. I was inundated, lots of people. I was running group sessions for MMA fighters as an entry point, and then I was running private sessions and fight camps and stuff, and it just escalated from there, really. Long story short.
No, but that's interesting stuff, as all those little nuggets like that, the interesting things. So there was, I mean, did you ever know way back then, like Tony Jeffries or anything?
Well, I did some work with Tony Jeffries around it might have been 2010. I did some work with Tony for one of his pro fights when he was still over here, and he was still involved in these 10 fight contract. I think he had his 10 pro fight contract. So I think I worked with him about fight number 8. So I did like a fight camp with Tony, and ended up having a bit of an argument with Frank Maloney over the phone, because he hadn't been running as much. And Frank Maloney told me that boxers need to run, and that was so I had a bit of a disagreement with him on the phone. It was like, wow, look, he says it's different from that MMA stuff. It's, boxers, world champions run. And I said, well, why? And he went, because they always have. And I went, oh, okay, that's sound. That'll do.
Yeah. Talking about your ebooks, because that was one of your ebooks, wasn't it? Fighters Don't Run, or
real fighters don't run. Yeah. And I'm not against running. Don't get me wrong at all, because the title was just to try and draw people in, really. Because I agree with hill sprints, I agree with interval runs, I agree with like fartlek training. I think it's all brilliant, but I could never understand why a boxer would run for 45 minutes straight or 50 minutes straight and kind of just break a bit of a light sweat and be all right, unless they were trying to shift a little bit of timber before a weigh-in. But it was that for conditioning, you know. And I used to say to people, there's a better way to condition yourself for fights, because you don't fight at that kind of one pace. Yeah. You know, it's, you guys know what I'm talking about, and now thankfully people know that now, that it's that kind of short bursts backing away, short burst backing away, short. That's where, and you needed to mirror that in your training. That was my theory at the time, and I'd be stupid if I thought if I had the same values that I held in 2006, I wouldn't have learned anything, and I would have wasted the last 15 years. But at the same time, some of those principles still stay true. I'm not against running at all. I'm definitely not. I mean, it's I do think sometimes only prayer runs from stuff, you know. So you learn to fight, and that's about it. But I think running for performance in terms of as your only activity is outdated. It's massively outdated. You know, I think you see boxers. Boxing was the hardest thing, I think, to shift, because I did work with two boxers over the course of my time at Grapple Fit, and one of them was became English lightweight champion Kirk Goodens, and the other guy was Johnson McClumfer, two really talented boxers, and they at the time ran all of the time. They were, you know, they were doing the distance run and putting the miles in 4 and 5 times a week. So I'd said to them, look, I said, don't stop it altogether, cut it down to twice a week. Add in some of these type of interval circuits and see how you feel. And they were like, right, okay, we'll give it a go. And their coaches were a bit hesitant, but I proved them wrong over time. And it wasn't to be a dick. I knew what worked better. I said, if I can maximize your training and maximize your recovery and not beat up your skeleton along the way, then that's happy days for everybody. You know, if we prolong your back end of your career without knackering your knees by plodding, then surely that's a good thing. And I used to, and I kind of said to them, you know, change it up, we'll do sprints, because it's gears. You go through gears in a fight, whatever fight it is. Whether, I mean, I know MMA has the level change, and that makes a difference. Wrestling and dragging somebody's weight around, as well as the striking aspect. But even boxing, there's clinching, there's rotational work where you're on the ropes, and so there's still that element where, you know, and I had them doing level changes and sprawls and burpees just because it was something other than plodding the streets for 45, 50 minutes. But they could be done time-wise in 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and then they've got more time to refuel, recover, rest, and then they can do the technical stuff later, you know. I used to just have to try and cycle it so that it was high intensity, low intensity, high intensity. You know, I wasn't going to try and smash them for, you know, 2 or 3 consecutive workouts. It was known what you had to tweak and back off, and what you had to, when you had to push. You know, that's like you guys do that now. You know, in your own training. Yeah,
it's you know, it's hilarious when you say that, because that's exactly what I went through when I first started to box as an amateur. You know, I went to the local boxing club in Cardenden. And it was all old guys. And literally what you were taught, you know, don't touch weights, because weights just make you big and stiff. And you get the black bag on and, you know, go run. You have to do your road work 3 times a week at least. Get an hour done. Get the black bag on. And, you know, they were saying, you know, running your boots.
Yeah.
And I was older, but, you know, so I was 23, 22 when I first went to a boxing gym, really. And I was kind of, at that point, you know, kind of going, I don't know, but, you know, the young kids would just buy into anything, because you know, that's what, no, this guy tells me to do that, I'm going to do it. So it wasn't until you know, who's our now a professor, Dan Reed, you know, we bumped into him, a load of circumstances worked in, and we met Dan. He said you have to, you know, because he's seen how at that point when I was at boxing, I was completely dedicated. As you have to be to, I don't need to tell you, Barry. You know how dedicated you have to be to do anything at a reasonable level in fighting.
Yeah.
So I was all in at that point. I was still a novice, but I was all in. So Dan seen how dedicated I was. He goes, you have to meet my friend Johnny Payne, who I went to work with there. And I think it was difficult for him in the beginning to do, get me out of exactly what you just said. Listen, you don't fucking have to do this.
Yeah.
This is silly. What they're telling you is stupid. You can't do it this way. And then I changed clubs. I went to box at Kinross Boxing Club, and that was the same. And it was almost getting into arguments with the coach, saying, don't lift weights. Don't lift weights. You just run and box. That's it.
Yeah.
And to the point where when you push somebody so hard to say you don't do this, another guy saying, listen, I know what they're saying. You have to trust the process. You have, this is, and I was lucky kind of at the time. So I trained at Petriva Athletic Centre.
Yeah.
A really great facility that doesn't get used really in Dunfermline. And there's a couple of guys who, got friendly with runners. And they said to me, like, how do you train for boxing? It was just everything was hard. Like everything was 100%.
Yeah.
Just how hard can you punch your pads? How hard can you spar? How hard can you, how many burpees can you do in a minute? It didn't matter how the burpees were. It's how many can you do in a minute. And they just thought that was crazy. And and you always remember them telling me, guys who were European level, 100 meters, 200 meters, 400 meters runners saying, yeah, we don't do a hard session within 72 hours of each other.
Yeah.
If we do a really hard session, then there's some mobility stuff, some light work. When they say not hard work, they're still working fairly hard, but it's not.
Yeah.
They're not going to threshold or anything. So, and then I was quite lucky to find those guys to go, these guys are fucking proper athletes.
Yeah.
So I had that I was lucky to find that. Otherwise, it would be very easy for a young guy who doesn't really know what he's doing at the point to say, I should just listen to the boxing guys.
Yeah.
And just put the black bag on and just go for a long run. And as you said, boxing is, I think, maybe slowly turning. I mean, I've seen videos, and I won't name names. I've seen videos of the Scottish national boxing team doing strength and conditioning workouts, and you're just watching them going, the fuck he's doing? You've just caught, well, this is strength and conditioning. You know what I mean? It's like showing somebody that doesn't know what a car is a fucking Vauxhall Vectra going, this is a Ferrari. And they go, oh, is it? Cool, man. It's cool, man. I like it. It's just like people that don't know what they're doing, and he's just going, that's fucking madness. But I think they've slowly kind of turned the tide, maybe getting there now. But as you said, boxing was the worst.
Yeah, it was an easy sell. Like for MMA, it was an easy sell because I think MMA was not so much in its infancy, but they were developing, and I think they were open-minded, where a lot of boxing coaches that I spoke to weren't, and that was the thing. And as you say, you're quite right. Don't lift weights; it'll make you bulky. I mean, I think that's even in my book somewhere. That and it's we know now that it's not true. I mean, you had people much smarter than me in the States doing this. Like Alan Cosgrove, you had Zach Evans, Ross Enamite. They all had that kind of like. And Ross Enamite was unique as well because he's from a boxing background.
Yeah,
and yet he still kind of sings the praises of distance work, but more sensibly done.
Yeah.
And it's still tempoed, so there's still a change of pace where the plodding of kind of yesteryear is outdated, and I think it is coming round. It is changing. I think people are seeing a better ways, and because that's the thing. It's like it's the definition of insanity, isn't it? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Yeah.
And like I say, I used to get people say to me that they felt like they had gears within a fight, so they felt like they could ramp it up if they needed to, or they could back off if they needed to, or they could ramp it up if they needed to and back off if they needed to. Where if you plod at one pace, you'll fight at one pace. That was what I used to say to folk, and I think that's the difference,
It seems like common sense, right? Like now, I mean, Ali could tell you when we roll, obviously not now because that would be highly illegal. But I have gears. I can go through gears. I can move through gears. Like I can go nice and easy and then step it up, step up, step up. And that's just from doing as you say. But yeah, it was. You know, when you talk about plodding, it's hilarious when you go. You know, how long is a Sambo match typically?
Well, on the timer it's 5 minutes, but the clock stops and starts every time there's a break in the action.
Okay.
So you can be on for like 7.5 minutes. You know, like
right. Okay, but
really.
you know, even at 7.5 minutes, right? You know, for a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, you know, our matches would be 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, amateur MMA is 3 minutes, I think.
Yeah, I think
Most of the time, yeah.
You know, and you know, even pro MMA, even if you're doing a title fight, you know, 5-5s or
Five
boxing,
fives.
you know, doing 3 minute rounds, you're not competing for an hour, so you want to be, you know, as explosive as possible in that time frame, because that's
Yeah.
the whole, you know, if you want to if you're doing judo, you want to throw somebody. If you want to box, you need to be able to pivot in, out, you know, throw some heavy shots, get out. Yeah, that's not as you say, plodding at, you know, a 10-minute mile for an hour.
Yeah.
It's not the same fucking thing. You're training for something that isn't this.
Yeah.
It's quite difficult. You know, I still speak to guys now, boxing guys who are absolutely so blinkered to doing anything out with, and I think a lot of it, you know, as you said, a lot of the amateur boxing guys were old. You know, it's still the same guys who are in power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To when I first started, and it's just nope, that's not what we do. We do it this way. Whereas MMA, when it you know came onto the scene locally here, you know, it was all young guys, and they kind of went, oh yeah, well, what if that is, you know, why don't we try this? And they'd experiment a little bit more. Whereas boxing was no, sweats it on. You know, they used to tell us ridiculous things like, yep, no, you know, you're not allowed to drink water during the session.
Yeah.
Why? For what reason? I'm sweating. I need some water. And that's the kind of crazy shit we were taught. And that's only 2008, you know, when I started.
Yeah.
It's not long ago. Do you know what I mean? It's not a long time.
No.
You know, so it's fucking insane when you think about it now.
It is. It is. It's mental, that kind of attitude. I mean, it's just like, I never understood that. That's almost like traditional martial art attitude. You know, if you're going to do like a session like that, then there has to be a very specific agreement in place first of all. You know, it's like it's got to be some kind of like attached to some kind of mental training. You know, like in terms of like I don't know, like I mean, I can't think of anywhere where that would be all right. But you know, in terms of, you know, if you were like
prison.
well, yeah. But if you see these guys doing like trying out for like the Foreign Legion training, you know, and I think it was like Bear Grylls years ago did that, didn't he? Went for the white cap, he went through the whole training and that kind of thing. You kind of think, well, yeah, all right, maybe then, but to me, to deny like young people who were training water is like, it's just mental. Yeah, of course, get a drink. You're sweating buckets, get a drink.
Yeah,
I thought you didn't pass out in me gym.
It's
100%.
funny. It's funny that you mentioned the Foreign Legion. Just was what, you know, Joe Struthers, our buddies, was on the podcast, was in the Foreign Legion. So we should have asked him about that.
Yeah, he definitely. I watched the program on the TV. He'd definitely be better placed to tell you than I would.
Just name dropping there because we're fancy podcasters now. But,
well, of course, you're international now, multinational, international.
Do you know what's funny is every now and again I get, you know, notifications on my phone, and it's Ali. You know, he's normally sending me a meme, whatever it is. But every now and again, it's like, holy shit, man! And the other day it was like, we've just added fucking Costa Rica and Cyprus. We're now in like 42 countries. It's like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Do you think between the three of us though, like for those types of countries, will they have to subtitle it?
Oh fuck! 100%.
100%.
What's worse speaking to you is, so when we speak to Americans, is you kind of have to slow down a little bit and you know, pronunciate a little bit better. But when you're speaking to, you know, anybody who's Scottish or, you know, even Southerners, you have to speak a little bit properly. But when it's somebody from the fucking northeast, yeah, it's just going to speak normally. But probably somebody's listening to this in fucking Jordan going, I don't know what they're saying. And this one big guy with the Viking guy with the crazy beard, he was fucking, I don't know what he was speaking. I think it might be Gaelic. But yeah, those things crack us up when you know, and when Alex sent us that thing. I don't know if you've seen the post. I think you probably did. You know, we're now in the top 10% of podcast worldwide.
Yes. Aye.
Us. What the fuck?
That's brilliant, that man. That's
Hilarious.
great. Taking over the world domination next. That's what you need.
Oh man, can you imagine?
Just waiting for that Joe Rogan Spotify money, eh? The Joe Rogan Spotify money. That's what we're in it for.
Yes.
Oh man. Oh, we'll buy you a drink if we get 100 million, Barry. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, no worries, mate. No worries. just keep mentioning us every now and then. That'll be good.
Yeah.
All for the likes and the followers.
Always. Always. But so how is your training? Obviously, I've watched your Instagram, but your back garden training looks interesting.
Well, yeah, I keep getting the odd little jibe off Ali on social media about it. He's more worried about what we neighbours think.
I message just for anyone that doesn't follow Barry, go and follow him on Instagram and see his outdoor workouts. But they're extremely impressive to watch, and I just have this image in my head that like his neighbours across the way don't know that Barry's like a Sambo champion, and just think he's this absolutely crazy man out the back with like scaffolding and stretchy bands that rips open cans of Iron Brew, and you could just imagine like a guy that plays golf, slightly overweight, drives a Volvo, just pulling back the curtains, going, "Margaret, you'll never guess what the bearded idiot's up to today." As Barry's like doing uchimatas and stuff in the middle of his garden. It just amuses me. I know you're doing amazing work and stuff, and it's hard work, but I just laugh going, for anyone that doesn't know what you're doing, is like, is he practicing for Strictly? What's he doing there, dancing about with that scaffolding? Like,
yeah. Do you know what though? That's the thing. Like, because I've always kind of done that stupid type of training, really. Like that people go, "What's that?" And it's like a you get used to it, you know. Everywhere I lived, I would train in my garage or train out in the garden, or I would, you know, because mainstream gyms tend not to allow you to fucking, you know, swing sledgehammers and stuff, and it's a bit. I mean, it's a bit weird. But I've always trained basically, and this is a term that I hate. This will be one that you probably hate as well, Chris. If you're not keen on PT, you'll be even less keen on functional training. Functional training is the one that makes you want to slap your face and eat your children. It's like it's one of those phrases. It's like, but I always trained with a specific aim. So I always had that aim for combat sports. Basically, that's the thing behind it. And I've always done that. I mean, I'll very rarely shadow box, but I'll kind of shadow combat Sambo. So as well as
that's even more mental.
If you go back far enough, there's videos on my Instagram from last year where I've got hand weights and I'm throwing headbutts and stuff and like throws, and you know it'll look like I'm at some kind of weird silent disco, you know, where everyone's got different music on and they're just dancing around. But I'll do that, and it's a specific kind of thing. So anyone who knows would know I'm doing some kind of fighting, or I've got like a really weird kind of form of physical Tourette's, and I'm delusional, and I'm fighting multiple assailants, you know, and getting beat. But it's always been with an aim of improving an aspect of my sport, whether it was judo or sambo or whatever. And I always got other people to do that. But in terms of the workouts that I used to do, they were always short and intense, and it always carried over to like longer kind of endurance activities as well, which was weird. You know, if I never really tested it as much, but as a theory, I always felt fitter when I was anaerobically fit. I always felt quite aerobically fit as well. The two kind of energy systems were complemented by that kind of training, and it was just specific because I'm doing something that is specific to my sport. You know, that was the theory behind it. But yeah, I'm used to the strange looks and the sideways glances, and people just don't speak to us now, you know. I've got like
there's two times I can remember, and one was taken. I can't remember I think it was just bored. I think I was just bored when I was younger, and I just took. There's a little beach where I go regularly to watch sunset at Loch Leven. So I'll just go down and do some sprints, and I'll do, I don't know, I can't take much with me. I'll take a sledgehammer, and I was just going to smash the sand up and sprint. So I was just walking down with a sledgehammer, and you could see people looking at you like, what the fuck is he doing? What the fuck? And there was another time where there must have been some kind of terrorist attack, like, and the day after, it was dark, and I was doing a list session, and I had a 20 kilo vest on, and so you could see somebody looking like, oh, is that a fucking... No, it's just a weight vest. I fucking promise you, I'm not fucking... I'm not gonna... I don't know how it would be blown up at 5:30 in the morning in a fucking trail, but you know what I mean.
With your dead man switch.
Yeah, people looked at you, but yeah, it's yeah.
It was when Barry did the ripping after I challenged you to say because just for getting anyone that's not seen it, Barry has a habit of ripping up full juice cans, which to me seems like a good waste of juice. However, we'll let that go. And you ripped up a couple of cans of Coke, and I had said, "Aye, that's easy enough, but why don't you try Iron Brew? It's made for girders." You're ripping up easy American juice. Rip up an Iron Brew.
Ali.
You did in fairness, and you put up and cut off a wee bit there. But and then my mate Big Cogs messaged me and he's like, "Who's that crazy man that's tagged you on Instagram ripping up cans?" I was like, that's Big Barry. He's a good lad. Just destroys cans in the garden, and the person that overlooks the house goes, "Margaret, I shit you not, he's out here ripping up fucking cans of Coke."
Look, he's got Iron Brew this time.
It is. I don't habitually waste it. It's just every now and then it's all right to throw in as like a bit of a grip strength feat. You know what I mean?
It's actually quite a good idea. If you think about fucking for collars and stuff.
Well, the weird thing about it, I mean, I got into it years ago with a guy who lives up your end, really, Middleby, near Lockerbie, Stan Pike. You might have heard of Stan Pike, actually, the bear with the name, actually, yeah. The kettlebell guy. Stan's pushing 70 now. I met Stan around about 2004, and then I got to meet. He got us into like steel bending, like nail bending and stuff like that. And then in 2010, I met a guy called Steve Angel who sadly passed away last November. And Steve, Stan, and I went and did the Dinny Stones in 2010. And that was when I met. When I met Steve, and Steve was very much into his grip. His as was Stan. To be fair, their grip was like mental, and it was those two that got me into bursting the Coke cans and whatnot, and bending nails. And Steve eventually got me into snapping the nails. Because he said it's like a waste of a nail. If you bend it, that's it. It's done and dusted. Where if you go back to it, bend it, close it, open it, close it, and snap it, it's it becomes a bit more cost effective on your training like budget, if you like, So the cans is just a strong man feat just every now and then. I just but ironically, it's actually once you get through one, the second and the third. And the most I've ever done in a row is 4, and it took me about 15 minutes. First one goes fairly quick, but after that, the kind of build up in your forearms and your grip is actually horrendous. So if you were ever to try it, it's weird how quickly your grip fatigues to the point where it's taking you ages to kind of get through the third one, particularly, and the fourth. I think 4 was the most I ever got, because I got a 6-pack once and thought, I want to do this. And I couldn't. I thought my hands were going to drop off. And it was try it. It was weird. It was a weird feeling, like how quickly the build up accumulated that much. It was just like the forearms cramped, my hands cramped. I couldn't get through it. It was weird. But obviously it's working because there is a training effect there, Yeah. Obviously, you do one in isolation. It's just a feat, and people go, "Oh, that's clever," But it's not like it's not. It is, as you say, it is kind of wasteful, I mean, I had a video on my laptop because my dad had come up with me when I'd gone to visit Stan, and we were doing loads of different grip stuff, and he had a lovely place in Middleby, and we were lifting stones and swinging kettlebells and stuff, and we finished off smashing some Coke cans, and my dad just went, "This is what you're supposed to do." And actually, I had a video of him opening the can and drinking it and going, "See, that's better. It doesn't end up all over your shoes. It's not in your face, So it was just, but yeah, it's just one of those daft little feats, It's like,
it's good. I think you're a special kind of fucking idiot when you're sitting talking about ripping up Coke cans and somebody's interested.
Yeah. Oh, why? How do you do it? Like, what's the technique?
Everybody else at this point is going, fucking three are idiots. Why would you do that?
Yeah, but we can get lids off jars though, so they can go and fuck off.
Exactly. What did you lift the Dinny Stones?
Yeah, I had a bit of a. I did. I managed one successful lift. I thought I had two, but I managed one successful lift, and it was only ratified. Believe it or not, it was only clarified. Actually last year. I had a bit of a. We'd posted the videos anyway, for the Dinny Stones. The day before we'd done the Inverstone, and for the Dinny Stones, the kind of tradition is that the manager of the Potarch Hotel comes out and you move the stones, and you have to get the permission to do it and that sort of thing. So Steve Angel lifted them over the course of the time we were there 20 times. And like shredded his hands, but he did 20 lifts of it. And at the time, that was the most I think that'd been lifted in one sitting, if you like. Stan managed 2, and I managed 2 at the time. So we posted the videos. We'd had a great weekend, and it was like. And then a certain company from the States had a forum, and they'd seen the videos and slated Stan's and my lifts and said it wasn't a lift, blah blah blah. We hadn't locked out and all this sort of stuff. And I'd like said, because everything I'd read about the Dinny Stones was all you had to see was air underneath the stones. That was apparently that was the tradition. That's what I'd read and that's what I'd heard. And the manager of the hotel had said, "Yeah, if you get air under the stones, that's it." So basically, if they clear the ground, it's a lift. But the Yanks had said, "Oh no, you and Stan didn't lock out. That's it." So I took my videos down. Thought, right, fuck yeah, that's it. I'm not. I know what I did. I had the bloodshot eyes to prove it, and I knew what I'd done, and I was happy with it. And I thought, well, I'm not bothered. I'll forget about it. And not long ago, I can't remember the guy's name. His surname's Shanks, and I don't know. His dad, I think, was Jack Shanks. He lifted them in the 70s, and his son's doing it, and he's kind of become the. Not the keeper as such, but he's in charge of like the website and whatnot. And I sent him the video of my lift, and he said, "Yeah, that's a good lift. That's So it was unassisted in terms of like no wrist straps, so it was a good lift. So I have lifted them, and I had it like kind of clarified by the guy who's now in charge of it. But it was only last year really that it was kind of sorted and done. Which
what a dicky thing you do to sit and slate them fucking dicks.
Well, that's what put me on, because I was going to try, and at the time I wanted to kind of go and because I love Scotland anyway. It's a lovely part of the world, and I like whiskey, so that's always a good thing. So I wanted to kind of go and do a tour of some of the other manhood stones. People have done it since then, obviously, but I wanted to just do it myself. Me and my dad go to the odd distillery, lift a bit stones, and then go and maybe not on the same day, go to another distillery, and just do that really, just every now and then. But it turned me off a little bit, because I thought, well, how fucking bitchy are you? You're like fucking women, and you're all supposed to be like strong lifters. And because I had one guy message me privately and say, "I was over the moon with your Inverstone lift. That was brilliant. But you just didn't lift the Dinny Stones for me." And I'm thinking, okay, cheers for that then. And it was like, but little person who I've never met.
Yeah. I was like, fuck you, little asshole. Come here and I'll throw you about like a fucking empty tracksuit.
Well, that was the thing. I thought I'm just gonna go back to like what I know and what I enjoy, and that was it. Kind of left a bit of a and sadly my pal Steve Angel, as I say, he was very much. He was very anti-strength training establishment, and he had a few records. He was in like the IAWA Hall of Fame. He'd had some tremendous lifts under his belt, records and stuff. And he was a natural lifter. He trained all his life, and he was very much of the opinion he would call out certain like strength gurus and put them to shame. And he hated the whole, like us, he hated the whole. Gym bunnyization, if you like, of PT and and all that sort of shit. But he also hated the strength industry because of how like commercial they're trying to be, and how they try to sell people the magic pill, and how they try, it's just, and because he says that was what had happened at the time we'd done the Dinny trip. He'd said at the time, that's just one of those things that puts me off the whole industry, because it's not like, instead of getting behind you, they've said no, that's not a full lift, and yet 10 years later it was actually said, yeah, actually you did lift them. It's weird.
What did they actually weigh? Because is that about 350 kilos total?
Yeah, both to get the combined weight's about 350 kilo. I think one's like I think in pounds, what is one about 345 pound, and the other one's 450 or something like that. Anyway, but obviously there's a bigger and a slightly smaller one, so you kind of do like a straddle deadlift or a Jefferson deadlift with them, and I mean it's horrific on your grip. You know, it's because that's where it comes because of the rings. It just opens your hand straight away, so it's kind of resting there in the crook of your fingers, really.
Yeah.
You know, for most part. I mean, I thought my arm grew by about 3 or 4 inches.
So it's one of those things where it's you know, if you're Scottish and interested in strength training, you know, it's one of those things that you know is legendary. Something that I would like to do, but is it comparable to, you know, a 350 kilo deadlift, traditional deadlift?
Well, when I was training for it, I never got close to deadlifting 350 kilo from a bar from the floor. I had dinny ring handle like replicas made, so I would rack pull effectively because you're not pulling from the floor on the handles. So I would rack pull that quite easily, but I never deadlifted it. And I think a deadlift of that weight would be, if you were used to deadlifting, that would be an easy pull for a lot of people. For a lot of people, I'm not saying me, but I think that would be a straightforward, because it's balanced. The issue with the stones, as soon as they start to come off the ground, there's a shift, and an awkwardness straight away. I don't know if you ever watched. Did you see that there was a program on, and they had like 3 strongmen from the States, like Brian Shaw.
Strongest men in history.
They walked across the width of it. Like, we were trying to walk across the width of the bridge and replicate Donald Dinny's feet, I think, and Brian Shaw got it the furthest. But they all said the same thing, how like when you lift, as soon as you feel it come off the ground, even when you've got a heavy bar and it bends, there's still a balance to it. But with the stones, it changes, and I think that's what made it kind of what it is, I suppose.
Yeah, it's just like I would, you know, love to be able to say at some point I lifted the Dinny stones, but you know, the most I've ever deadlifted is 240. Maybe I'd have 250 on the perfect day, and I'm just going, is that like, I don't know if I could ever do it. Like, you know, I don't really want to have to do strength training just to lift the Dinny stones. It's not that important, but it'd be super cool to say I did it.
You'd have to. I would say, if you were going to do it, I mean, I dedicated about 6 months to it, and I was running the gym at the time, and I didn't do anything else really other than train for that. So you could do it, and it's 6 months out of your training cycle.
Yeah.
You know, so you can always just, once you've done it, add things back in. I think it's a goal. It's something to look for. You know, it's something I can look back on fondly, especially now.
Yeah.
That it's kind of ratified or qualified, if you like, you know. But I, you know, I'd be nowhere near the bloody thing now. I couldn't push them along the floor. You know?
We've said that a few times, haven't we, Chris, on the podcast, about like when people talk about weights on, as you're saying, Barry, on a nice balanced bar, a lot of people think that sounds relatively easy, but when it's like a dynamic object, it becomes a totally different ballgame. Like we were talking, again, we're going to name drop here. Yeah, Atlas Stones, or Matt Vincent, where he was talking about throwing like a 16 kilo shot put in the Highland Games.
Yes.
And you pick up 16 kilos and go, 16 kilos isn't, in inverted commas, heavy.
Yeah.
But then you find out he threw it like 72 feet, and you go, I could throw it 70 feet. And then you go, and it goes badunk and goes about 4 inches, and you're like, it's just different. You know, people see 16 kilo.
72 feet.
Something like that, wasn't it? I think it was off one of those, you know, like a spinning one, like they throw the weight, you know, like with a rotation. But
that's brilliant.
Still, it was
I can remember
that. Like that.
I can remember the number now, and it's because the number isn't that. If you have no idea about any of this stuff, you would go throw 16 kilos, 72 feet, and that's like
I've got it written down from my wee podcast notebook. It was a 16 pound, not 16 kilos. So I got that bit wrong. But he threw it 63.4 feet.
Jesus Christ.
So 16 pound, not 16 kilo. But still, the point remains.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But it seems like one of those things where you'd go, well, it doesn't seem all that hard until you try to do it. And then you went, oh. So we're talking to, it was Anthony Deal, America's strongest man, our buddy. And we're talking about, he was talking about lifting Atlas stones. And, I lifted, there was one in the rugby club where I used to lift weights. There was a 120 kilo Atlas stone just appeared. And I finished the session. And I went, I think I deadlifted, I think it was doubles at 220, deadlifts, fairly comfortable. And I went, I'm going to lift this Atlas stone just because I just want to lift it. And I fucking got down and went, how the fuck? How do you move it? It doesn't make sense. Like 120 kilos is, you know what I mean? I could row 120 kilos.
Yeah.
And then it's like how to get it down? And it's like, fucking get one of those, fucking, you try to get your arms around this thing like you're cuddling your granny or something, and you go, what the fuck? I fucking did it. You can't get down. It's like, so is it like I feel again like ass to the grass here, like I'm like squatting? Like, no, that's not how you want to do it. And then you try to load too much in your back. You go, no, that's not what I want. You just go, how the fuck do you move that? Do you know what I mean? And it's one of those numbers where you went, I could lift 120 kilo stone. Of course, it's good. Good to do it. Well, how the fuck is this? It doesn't make sense. It's weird things that again, like if you asked if you went and asked 10 teenagers tonight if they think they could win a fight against an actual fighter, they'd probably all say yes.
Oh, yes.
And then they'd get in there and go, what the fuck just happened? When did it land on my head? Why is everybody standing around about me asking if I'm okay? You know what I mean? It's people have these weird perceptions of fighting and weight is two of them, where they get mad idea. To be fair, every year, Barry, I climb. Well, I say every year. Every year for the last 5 years, I've climbed Ben Nevis. It's a very good test. I like the Ben, and it's a good test. It's a good indicator of fitness. I do it, time it, and go, I'm not too bad. But you see people going up and down, and it's I always go up early because I don't like people. So I'm usually coming down early, and you see people coming down, and you'll be, near the bottom, and people will be going, oh, must be nearly there now, and you're going, once you get to the waterfall, you're about halfway, and you're not halfway to the waterfall yet. You're about this much up the hill, but they just. It's like they go, I'm going to climb Ben Nevis. Come on, I'll go climb Ben Nevis. And then they start climbing up a hill going, fucking hell, this is hard. Yes, it's hard. If you put a backpack on with some weight in it, with water bottles and food and some waterproofs and everything, you put 5 or 6 kilos extra on your back and then start climbing up a hill, you go, holy shit, this is difficult.
It's a leveler, isn't it? This is the thing.
And
it's like you say about the weight, and like you say about the fighting. It's. I always think and it was one of those things I always liked about the last Olympics, and they had a quote that went round as a meme, and they'd said it was Bill Murray, but probably wasn't. But he said that in the Olympics, every Olympic event should have like a regular person as a frame of reference. And I loved. Apparently that wasn't Bill Murray that said that, but I just thought that was brilliant because people. One thing that pisses me off about you go to barbecues or gatherings or you hear people in bars, pubs, and clubs, and it's the audience kind of input to any sporting event. You can have a football match or a rugby match on, and you can have some fat fucking idiot talking about what they should be doing and how they should be doing it. Yeah. And MMA shows were the best thing ever for that. But I went to one of the boxers I used to train. He fought in the Telewest Arena in Newcastle. I think it's called Utility Arena now. That's how long it is since I've been there. Mr. Sociable, who doesn't like people, who really loved lockdown. We went there, and obviously there was a good following for the Northeast boxing fans. There was loads of people there. It was great. It was a good event. But I heard the guy shout some of the best advice I'd ever heard from the crowd. And it was literally, it had kind of gone silent, and people were like, you know, you could hear people in the crowd, the knowledgeable kind of people were shouting, you know, work your job, in and out, blah, blah, you know, whatever. Nice and sharp, nice, and, you know, whatever it would be. And this guy shouts, in and out, like a burglar. I was like, what?
Oh, man.
But if that had been picked up on like a camera somewhere, you know, you just imagine people going, what did they say? In and out like a burglar. I thought, wow, that was a good lad. Well done.
I remember boxing. I did an exhibition. It was in Dundee. I went to Dundee. I think it was at the Sky Axe Club, and it was some of the guys from, I think it was at Kinross were boxing, and I just went up. But you always took a gum shield with you just in case, and I ended up, this guy's lad has done that. You want to do an exhibition with him? He's a light heavyweight, but he was one of those weird light heavyweights, but he was about 6'5" and built like a fucking lamppost. Cool, let's do it. So and the referee said to me, he's light, he's only fucking 79 kilos, and I was 94 or something. So cool, no worries. So we just fucking doing an exhibition, and he just kind of playing about a little bit. But he had obviously his mates were there expecting to see a fight, and they were young lads from Dundee, and they were all pissed. I can't remember his name. His name was John something, and they kept every now and again, because it was quiet, and every now and again, all you hear is punch his fucking bust, Johnny, and then he would kind of go, ah, and he was a novice, so he'd try and attack, and every time he tried to attack, I was just jab straight to the middle and knock him back into his heels, and the referee would go, no, fucking hell. And then it just kept happening all the time. But that's all they were shouting at was, punch his fucking puss. And then he would go, right. And then he would try and swing at me. And I was just, it was fucking brilliant. And you almost trying not to laugh, because it was quite funny when it was happening, because he just kept going, just sticking him on his chin. It was fucking, those things are hilarious. I miss that about fighting, as those little shows like that where somebody says something ridiculous. Just those are brilliant.
But it's that perception, isn't it, of like what's easy and what isn't, and it used to get on my tits. You go to like family. I mean, I watched the Olympics when I was with my ex-wife. I was still married at the time. We'd gone to somebody's house for a barbecue, and the Olympics were on. It was like the 2004 Olympics or something, and they were like slate. There was some of the husbands there slating the 100 meters sprinters. I was like, fucking hell, you've never run, you couldn't run a fucking bath, and he's just ran 100 meters. I think it was the relay, actually. He just ran 100-meter relay. Are you joking? You couldn't run 20 meters, and you're like, oh, they shouldn't have been doing that. That's terrible. That handover was crap. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like with the MMA, isn't it? How many times have we said where people are watching it and they're like, I would never have tapped to that. That Khabib thing was more of a crank. I wouldn't have tapped to that. And you're like,
yeah, man. Yeah.
Yes, you would have. You would have tapped just to the sheer pressure of Khabib crushing your legs. You'd have tapped, let alone until he got his arm around your throat.
To be fair, they'd have probably tapped the floor before the referee went, stop, man.
What the fuck? Yeah, it's funny. I mean, the fighting things, it's always the Khabib thing. People say, you just think, I can't even explain without beating the shit out of you. I can't explain how fucking do you know what I mean?
I like that one. I like that. I prefer. Normally, I haven't got the time or the crayons to explain it to you.
I like that.
But I quite like that one though. I'll have to just beat the shit out of you. It'll be quicker, and you'll understand better.
You'll understand this when you it's one of it's just fucking hilarious to me. That you get how I don't know if it's a modern thing or people have been like this right throughout history. How they get talent and ambition confused. Like,
yeah.
We had Ian Mackey on, probably fifth or sixth guest, I think. And Ian's a friend, and he was Atlanta '96. He ran in the semi-finals. He pulled a hammy Atlanta '96 in 100 meters. Now I know Ian, and Ian is a hard worker, and Ian was jacked. I mean, he was unofficially, I believe, the first white man to go sub 10. And then you think, having seen him moving and know what that looks like.
Yes.
You go, I don't understand how these guys are now going constantly 9.7, 9.8. You go, but if that difference from what he did is absolute best, and knowing what that looks like to watching Usain Bolt going, what was it, 9.57?
Yeah,
I think that difference is unexplainable. Like, I don't fucking understand. But the Bowie people out there be going, he's not that good. Like,
I could catch him.
You know what I mean? But, like, you just, it's easy to sit on the couch and tell everybody they're doing shit, isn't it? But
that's the thing, isn't it? That's the whole crux of it. And whatever discipline you look at, there are always people that do that, and I always think like, and that's maybe to answer your question, it's probably always been around because you've got that famous speech by Teddy Roosevelt, haven't you? It's not the critic that counts. That was, when was he president? The 20s or 30s or something, whatever it was. So it's obviously always been around. I think, like naysayers and people that say, well, you can't do this or you should have done that better. But I think it's like anything. I mean, like even across kind of training and strength and conditioning and stuff, it's one of those things, people always criticize, and there's more than one way to skin a cat for things, and I think principles kind of stay, and it's like it's very much the mainstay principles, because especially in strength and conditioning, there's always bells and whistles and fads and new things that come along, but ultimately basics done well pretty much trumps everything else, doesn't it, in terms of training, skills work for fighting, that sort of it. And I think that's across the board. If you stuck with like squats, pressing and pulling and deadlifts, you would be and sprints, you'd be a pretty formidable athlete, really. Add some plyometric training in, and that's all you pretty much need. You don't need, how you get that resistance doesn't really matter, does it? No. But yet people will try and criticize what, don't use that method, use this, do this for that. And that goes across all disciplines, I suppose, not just.
And it's, if you look at, I'm trying to think of, something to use an example. When there was if it doesn't matter who the guy. So like when Tyson Fury, is again, still is the man, I suppose, hasn't fought in a while now, but he's still the man, I suppose. But you look at the way he does things, and he does things weird, but you can't possibly say they don't work, because they obviously do. So if as long as you get to the end result, like the method to get in there is almost irrelevant. Like he's working to the best of his ability. Maybe if you tried to change him, he'd be shit. You know what I mean? Maybe
it works.
If you tried to change him, But I mean, I've had people asking me. One of my friends actually asked me recently, and he wanted to start lifting weights, and saying, how do I get a little bit bigger? He just want to get, he doesn't want to bodybuild or anything. He just wanted to put a little bit of weight on and a little bit of size on it. I mean, squat, deadlift, bench. I mean, start there. Eat some more food and fucking squat, deadlift, and bench.
Yeah. Well, last time you were on, Barry, you actually said very similar to what you were saying there. You had said if you do one day lift something heavy, the next day run about with something just a little bit less heavy, and then on the third day throw something a little bit less heavy and just rotate through that. You're going to do pretty well. It's a pretty solid program at that point. Well,
because if you look, you're looking at like strength, power, and endurance. Those are the three big. They're the big three that you need to build for anything, really. And as long as your diet's right, you can get like a pretty good physique from that as well. Because obviously as we know, it's the kitchen where your body composition's made best. But lift something heavy, throw lighter stuff around, and then sprint like your life depends on it. And that's three decent workouts, and it's programming doesn't have to be hard. I mean, I used to try and base that around, like when I had the gym, I used to try and base programming around that, depending on where people were and what they needed for, a particular thing. Like working with somebody like Ross Pearson was a dream, because he was only he had like 10 or 12 weeks phases to train. So I could phase it and do a strength phase, a power phase, and a conditioning or power endurance phase. The ones that fought on more local shows, you only had like 6 weeks, so you had to kind of keep them ticking over. You had to try and hit everything then, and then you're looking at like different methods of periodization for that. But ultimately, the method's the same. My aim there as that kind of strength coach or strength and conditioning coach or PT, whatever you want to call yourself.
No!
that was the aim there, was to make them better, not make them worse, So the training that I did with them, I always felt should have complemented the rest of their training. And for boxers who only maybe have one discipline to train for effectively, it was easier to plan for. Whereas MMA fighters might have to deal with multiple sessions during the day of jits, kickboxing, wrestling, pads, MMA sparring, and strength and conditioning. And there's a few things there they've got to juggle. So that would always be the difference for me, would be, what have you had today? What have you got on that evening? What have you got the next morning? And that was what I was talking about earlier when I said about the high and low intensity and trying to juggle it around, because it's no good thrashing them. It's no good, it's no good running them ragged for 6 weeks, 7 weeks, because that doesn't work, doesn't serve them.
Yeah, that's the the PTs that I hate, is the ones where it's just about making somebody sweat, like just work hard, and eat less, and if that doesn't work a little bit harder and eat a little bit less again. Yeah. And if that doesn't work a little bit harder and eat a little bit less again until somebody's got a fucking eating disorder. Those are the ones that I don't like. That's when the PTs, the 6 weeks training course, and now I can teach you everything.
6 weeks, that's practically a degree for PTs. That isn't it? Only you can get them doing a weekend.
It's one of those things where I find that staggering. So if somebody turned up to your house and say, "Hello, Mr. Gibson, I'm the plumber. Just like I've just completed my 6 weeks course and I'm going to put a bathroom in." You go, no, you're fucking not. What do you mean you've been doing this for 6 weeks? Do you know what you're doing? Do you know what I mean? No, you wouldn't, would you?
I was talking to, weirdly enough, this is me being a bit rock star now, I was talking to a group of coaching degree students about my coaching experience. One of my old pals is a lecturer on this course, and he got me on to do a Teams meeting with his students and talk about coaching journeys and coaching philosophies and stuff. And I was talking about a story I'd heard on like a fitness marketing thing, and it was Alan Cosgrove that tells the story, who's a native Scotsman like yourselves, and he was talking about when FedEx had just kind of started out and they had one depot, if you like, one kind of factory, all the conveyors stopped. That was it, like just for nobody knew why. So they got this engineer out. The engineer came out and had a little scoot around the place, got his bits of tools out, adjusted this screw, boom, everything back on again. Everything had just come back on like it had been flicked on like a light switch. So came to get the bill, and it's one of those stories. It's probably like an urban myth and really exaggerated, but it's like the point is quite like relevant. And he said, "How much do you owe?" He says, "Oh, $2,000." And he says, "Can you itemize that?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Well, turning the screw that I just turned is $5. Knowing which screw to turn was $1,995. Yeah. And it's that kind of thing where people used to say to me, "What do you charge for an hour?" And I said, "Well, I don't charge per hour because I'm not like a plumber or electrician. Or I charge per session." So I said, if I've got like a session that's going to get you fit and I can do it in 20 minutes, why would I fill that session with 40 minutes of like bollocks and stuff when you can be home recovering and doing whatever, getting on with your day basically. And there was a big culture for that as well at the time, when people think they need to be doing sessions for an hour. Like, who came up with a figure like each training session has to be an hour? Who came up with that? Where did that come from? And obviously it's come from health clubs and gyms and spas, mainstream places where it's like, right, you can only book people in for an hour. But now you go to certain gyms and they're booking people in for 25-minute PT sessions and 35-minute PT sessions, and they're cottoning on to that because obviously they can get more money and more people through the door. But in terms of adding value, if I could have you, begging for mercy, dying a death in a puddle of sweat after 15 minutes, why would I then fill that session with an extra half hour of stuff that's just going to make you worse.
It's funny because you mentioned that, and you mentioned them earlier on. And one of the best workouts that I've ever done is the Ross Enamite Magic 50. Five. You know what it is. So you do that. You get in, warm up, do 5-10 minutes just warming up, getting some loosening off, and do a heavy-ish Magic 50. And a heavy-ish Magic 50 would take me. If I do it with, I don't even know what the last weight I was. 12 minutes. 12 minutes. 11.5 to 12 minutes, and you will be fucked.
Yeah.
Absolutely fucking ruined. Yeah. It's brutal.
100%. It's awful. Awful.
If you do it heavy, I think I might have done it with a 30 or a 32 kilo. I don't know. Something like that. It was heavy and it was brutal. Absolutely awful. Like you says, let's 12 minutes work.
Yeah. and that's the thing. But then like a really shit kind of trainer would go, right, so now we're going to do some abs, and then we're going to do some of this, and then all of a sudden they're trying to justify why they're doing that. But another analogy to think of is, it's cheaper to get the coach to London, and it's more expensive to fly because you get there quicker. So if I can get you to your goals quicker, would you not pay more for it? And that's kind of it was trying to shift people's attitudes towards, it's value for money, but you don't feel like you're getting value for money because you're not getting the time spent either, which is like a mental attitude to have. But it's just that's kind of the way people are, and people are conditioned to think that sessions like that and this is where that whole thing about I haven't got time to train comes in. It's fucking madness, it is getting better, I think. But the fitness industry's got a long way to go,
Yeah, I've got a friend that's like that. He says all the time, "Oh, I wish I could get." He's a couple of years older than me, and he says all the time, "I wish I could get back in shape." I'm like, so why aren't you? I just struggle for time, eh? But then I know because he posts it on his stories on social media. He'll sit and watch, 7, 8, 10 episodes of whatever on Netflix every night. And be up till 2 in the morning, and then sleep for 3 hours, and then moan he's tired because he's been up all night, and then not do anything, and then get home from work because he's working from home, so finish his work.
Drink a tinted Rockstar, and then go, I don't know why I feel shit in the afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But he's of that mindset that he doesn't have time to get fit. It is like, I've not really got time, because as you say, Barry, he used to, about 5 or 6 years ago, to go to a PT who used to do functional training with him for a 60-minute session.
Yeah. See, there's a lot wrong with that statement, isn't there? Functional training for 60 minutes. Fuck off. It's just like, no, get out. No, you're not functional. You're a twat.
and I've seen pictures that he used to get trained on, and there's genuinely one of them. And he's the old, the gym balls, the mobility balls, yoga balls, whatever you want to call them. He's got the trainer's got one of them jammed inside a power rack, and my mate is stood on top of it with a dumbbell in each hand, doing alternate dumbbell lifts. Functional training, baby. And he's literally stood on top of the exercise ball that's wet, because it's functional, Barry. Don't ask why, you idiot. It's functional. I can't believe you even asked why.
I think we need to get T-shirts done with that. You're not functional. You're a twat. This is the thing, right? I mean, I love what I do because I have a stability ball, and you know what I do like about those, the jits drills, the flow on those. I think that's brilliant. When you see people changing positions from like side control and scarf hold and move, I love all of that. I think that's brilliant. I think it's a great way to warm up. But I have never thought of getting somebody to stand on one. And no, just stop being a dick. Be sensible and lift heavy shit. I don't fight on a stability ball, so why the fuck would I stand on one and try and do turn-ins on my resistance band? That's going to end in disaster anyway.
Unless somebody comes and says to you, I would like to blow an ACL. Come on, let's get you doing some heavy squats on a mobility ball. Awesome, let's do it.
I can think of easier ways to blow an ACL for somebody.
I know, absolutely.
You could wait until they stand on it and then just stab it.
But yeah, that's what he used to go and do. So because of that, he thinks he can't get fit because one, he doesn't have a functional personal trainer anymore. And two, he doesn't think he's got the time because it used to take him, 10, 15, as you're saying, Chris, 10, 15 minutes to warm up, 10 minutes to cool down, plus an hour balancing on an exercise ball.
Let's be realistic. If somebody has no time to train and they don't have any equipment, I mean, listen, get up in the morning, do something to loosen off. Just walk up and down the stairs for 10 minutes. Do 100 burpees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just do 100, 200 burpees.
The thing with the Netflix, watching Netflix, whatever program it is, if it's a violent program, every time somebody gets shot, do 10 push-ups and 10 squats. Every time somebody gets punched in the face, whatever you're watching, kind of thing, you can do it. You can do that sort of thing. You can make it fun. You can make it, and you can still watch your programs while training. It's like it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have that. That's the thing, isn't it? You quite rightly say, you don't need equipment, and you don't need space, and you don't need time. You don't need a lot of space anyway. But you definitely don't need time, and you don't need equipment. It's like that. That's like those things are just like. It's just excuses at the end of the day, isn't it? That's ultimately all that is.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining there as Barry's talking about doing the exercise while watching Netflix to go with you doing your mad exercises outside and ripping up cans. That now binge watch Friends, and every time Janice goes, "Oh my God," Barry's down banging out 10 press ups, 10 squats.
Have you got a fucking camera in here?
As your neighbour walks past, I don't believe it, Margaret. Watching Friends, and he's doing fucking press-ups.
We secrets out now. Then that's it.
Oh man, that's that's funny. I've got that image in my head now.
Well, sorry, mate. I'll be there forever now.
Yeah, man.
That kind of functional fitness, though, it falls into something we were talking about in the last podcast. It's like McDojo level of fitness, isn't it?
McDojo.
Yeah.
Do
you know what I mean? It is. It's stuff that people are doing it because they think it's going to look cool, it's going to look good on whatever, and it's completely impractical and ridiculous in the real world.
That's something that really annoys me. Is it's a modern phenomenon. It's really since Floyd Mayweather did what they came to be called the Mayweather Mitts. And everybody now does these weird choreographed boxing pad routines. This is fucking horseshit. What are you doing? This is not.
Yeah.
This is not relevant to anything. Throw a fucking jab. What happens when somebody steps back or steps off to the side or moves their head? You're doing this weird choreographed thing genuinely for Instagram likes. What the fuck?
Yeah. Well,
it's weird.
It's that thing, isn't it? It's like the fancy stuff draws people in. Yeah. But like I said, it's the basics.
Fundamentals. Yeah.
It's the basics done well. That you can't beat that, and that's with anything. That's with anything.
We said this so many times about jiu-jitsu. Everybody wants to learn the spinny and vert and shit where you fucking drop and roll and sweep somebody and end up in a fucking weird fucking position and get a weird, cool, exotic tap.
Yeah.
Man, can you pass guard?
Well, yeah.
Do you know how to do that? Because if you don't,
some of those things, because I follow a few jits accounts on Instagram, and some of those really elaborate things, because they're not really prevalent in Sambo or Judo, but some of the really elaborate things that I see, they end up in a position where they get a submission at the end, which is obviously the ultimate aim. But it looks to me like they've passed a couple of opportunities on the way for some of them. I don't know if that's something that I'm missing. But they might have gone for a rear naked choke, but they've passed a foot and they've passed a leg and they've passed an arm to get to a choke. And I'm thinking, surely you could have took one of those beforehand on the way to climbing up and spiraling up them like some kind of fucking twisted pole dancer. It just seems a bit weird,
Do you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of a conversation with another one of our guests. We had Laura Zero on, who's like a survivalist, and she does all these mad things in the woods. She goes out with a fucking lollipop stick and kills antlers and skins them to make a house. She's crazy. I'm asking her what's the best way to start a fire in the woods? And she's like, well, there's loads of ways to start a fire in the woods, but take a lighter. And it's like, oh, fucking course. I'm looking for this really complicated answer. Yeah, I usually have a lighter. Like, why would you take a lighter? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? So you're looking for this. I was looking for this really elaborate, like, well, what I do is I have to look for this age-old tree that's between 100 and 120 years old, and I slowly shave off the bark, and I just take a lighter.
Yeah.
It's just, you're looking for this crazy answer, but you go, oh, this is simple. It's relevant to all that, isn't it? So, but yeah, that's
very much so.
that's life. But yeah, it's we're heading on for fucking ages. What
been doing it half
Going
nine
for
nearly.
ages. Well, half
Is
nine.
it?
Yeah,
We did this last time, didn't we? We talked that long, and it just kind of time just flew, didn't it?
I don't know what's going on in life anymore. I just fucking go along. Ali tells me things. I need to be someplace, and I just turn up. But I genuinely don't know what day it is half the time.
And just for proof of that, I told Chris the wrong date for our last podcast.
Oh,
And
nice.
I had it a day early in my head, and me and Chris were all set up, and I tried to phone our guest in, and he wasn't available. And then he messaged me, he's like, I've got you guys down for tomorrow. And I'm like, yeah, you have. I've just totally got it wrong.
Fucking getting old, and too many things going on in life.
Oh, shit. You fuckers aren't in your 40s yet, are you?
I'm 42.
Yeah, you don't look it.
You see, I have the advantage.
He does up close. He does up close.
I was going to say, I've got the advantage of being a day walker and not being in the sunshine ever with this complexion. So that's all it is.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
Yeah, no, I'll be. What am I now? 36. Yeah, I'll be 37 this year. 37 in December. So,
see, you're just a young pup.
Fucking don't feel like I'm. You know what? I'm sitting here now. I'm sitting here just now going, I'm going to have to stretch my left hip. Feels really sore. Just from sitting down. Just sat down for too long. Like, I need to
see. I'm on my phone at the minute. It's on like a tripod, but you can't see my legs have been in and out, like moving around and switching and fixing all the time. I'm going to get up. I'll be like the evolution of man picture. When I get out of this chair, once we finish this, I'll be like 3 steps to straighten up.
Mm-hmm. I know that feeling. It's to be 18 again and just be made of magic.
Oh, fuck I. Yeah.
To be made of magic. Just wake up and go, okay, I'm just going to go run. Or,
Yeah.
I fucking fall asleep on the couch now and wake up and my neck's fucked and my shoulders are fucked and I need physio.
That's the thing. I'm at the stage people laugh about it, And I used to laugh at my dad like years ago on judo mats when I was like in my early 20s, and I was on the mat with my dad, and my dad would be like putting tubey grip on this and taping his fingers and doing this. And I used to take the piss and call him like Boris Karloff out of the Mummy films and all that, And he used to say, you keep talking stupid, it'll come to you. And he wasn't half right.
Yep.
It takes me longer to tape up now than it does to warm up, And it's like I spend more time taping me arthritic thumbs and me gimpy fingers and strapping me knees than I do warming up, because by the time I've done all that, I've got a bit of a sweat on anyway.
It's always funny. I think you're getting old when you start making noises just sitting down.
Yeah.
You go, you're old. Everything's tight. Like you pull a calf muscle just try to get your shoes on. Again. It takes a while. It takes a while to get warmed up these days. But keep moving. Keep moving. Like there's our coach John's 53 now. And they've got their own little old man's club where they go and train Saturdays and they all do judo and jiu-jitsu and stuff, but they get together on a Saturday with a few of those guys that are all in their 50s and still hammering after it. And that's awesome.
Oh, it's great. I'll do it as long as I can, and once I'm warm, you're pretty much fucked. But I've got to get warm first. It's like give us a minute.
I was talking to. It might have been Kieran Smith, a friend of mine from the amateur boxing days, who's superhumanly fit. I think he's 27, 28, and he's talking about training. I say, listen, I can still train. I can still train as hard as I could when I was 25.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes harder because I'm stronger and I've got better endurance these days. So I can still train as hard as possible as I did, when I was 25 years old. I just can't do it 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
Do it 2 days in a row. I can still train brutally hard that would make you sick. I can still do those sessions.
Yeah.
I just can't do them day after day anymore.
Do you know the thing though? Like that's the problem, isn't it? Because we should have trained like that in our youth, where we wouldn't train on consecutive days, because and that's why we skeletally are like that now. You know, in terms of our skeleton, it's like dog years. You've put years on, you know. So every year you train in a grappling sport, I think you age like 7 years. It is like dog years. But if you train sensibly then, but you haven't got the sense to do that then. When you're 18, 19, 20, you're invincible, so you're caning it every single day. And I think that's the problem. You don't know to temper it a little bit with the recovery and the mobility. I used to warm up for competitions like that, and that was me. Right, I'm going on the mat. Like, you know, now it's like I go through a whole process. But nobody said to me, you're mental, you need to do this properly, get this warm up done, you know. Nobody tells you that really. You know, when you're 19 you think you know it all anyway. So it's tempered with that. So I think looking back, I would definitely train differently, and I think like knowing now what I know then, I could have done well with competition. And I think longevity wise, I would have been less banged up than I am as well, you know.
That's why my knees are so bad, because I didn't do combat sports, but I played rugby from the age of 10. And when I was like 16, 17, I was playing for my club side, my school side, and my district side. And there was weekends when I would play 4 games of rugby, 2 on a Saturday, 2 on a Sunday, 1 in the morning with the school side, 1 in the afternoon with the club, 1 with the district side in the morning, and then 1 with the district age group up. And as well as training 4 times a week. And that's one of the big reasons my knees fell apart. And amongst other things, like silly things like when I tore my ACL and decided I could still play if I taped basically a fan belt to the back of my leg so it would move. And I played a game like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would go crazy if my boys did that nowadays, but you know what I mean? I did it at the time and it seemed sensible.
Our sparring sessions were the same. The sparring sessions at the Kingdom Boxing Club where I ended up, they were just fights with 60-ounce gloves on.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Just stupid. Now you look back and you go, why the fuck did we do that to ourselves? Like if I was coaching somebody, there was no way they would get to spar the way we did.
Yeah,
you know, guys got knocked out. Guys got fucking sparked unconscious.
Yeah.
It was dumb. Like, you know.
At least you can still remember it though, so it hasn't been that bad.
Yeah, I'm fine. You know, like, I know guys my age where they are a little punchy, slur some words. I was fine. I was you know, weird. I had very, very good reflections. I never got caught with a lot clean, but the sparring sessions were dumb. It's nice, you know. And it's not even about the headshots all the time. It's about the shots you take on the elbow, the one you take on the hip. You know, just it's all accumulation over the years and just destroying your body.
It's just something you were saying there, and linking back to the stuff about the strength and conditioning. Just quick, because I know it is getting on, but you were just saying there about sparring and stuff, and I had that with MMA fighters at the time as well. That argument of should they heavy spar all the time to get fit and stuff, and I used to say to them, sparring should be like a technical process where you sharpen your tools, you don't try and kill each other, and your circuits and your kind of fight day circuits could be really grueling, but your sparring, although it's hard work and you're exerting yourself, it shouldn't be a war of attrition. And that's where a lot of people fall down. And I think boxing was the same for that, but so was MMA. If people go to different gyms, you always found that there was a pressure to kind of put your game face on and do it as if it was, you know, your life depended on it. And I think trying to shift people from that mindset was hard as well. Just go back, you know, when we were talking sense earlier about gyms and training and stuff. That's kind of just remind us there, Chris. That's a good point, you know.
The problem always is you get fucking idiots like us who like to fight. And if somebody catches you on the chin, well, fuck you. Watch this. Do you know what I mean? And that's what happened, you know. And you know, there's a funny, you know, a classic meme, and I've shared it so many times. It's one of the Muppets things, and it's, you know, one of the, you know, Kermit the Frog looking outside, you know, his window, and it's like, you know, the problem is some of y'all motherfuckers like to run your mouth, and then there's a picture of him like walking, I don't know what, it's like going like towards a gym, whatever it is, and it's just like, you know, the difference is I like to fight. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things where, you know, everybody talks and stuff. You go, yeah, no, I enjoy, and you know, saying to my old boxing coach Danny, you know, he lives across the road from me. I was like, I need to spar soon. Like, I just feel like I need to do some boxing sparring. You're like, why? Yeah, I don't know, man. I just need to know that I can still do it. There's no reason. Just need to get punched in the face a few times. Go, cool, man. I'm good. I know I can still do it. I'll see you in a year. You know what I mean? It's weird.
That my guys from the Sambo club. I mean, my Sambo club's been shut for a year, and they used to call it punch your mate in the face Monday. It was because Monday night was combat Sambo night, and we sparred, and and you'd be surprised how many of them do feel like it's therapy. It's because and I think we spoke about this last time actually when we were talking about like how all your other problems go away when someone's trying to arm lock you.
Yeah.
Your shit day at work kind of is like, I mean, for me, I work in a school. A shit Ofsted inspection would kind of just pale into insignificance while someone's trying to throw us on me head and strangle us unconscious. It's like that doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the Ofsted guy said. I could do this to him if I wanted, but somebody else is trying to do it now.
The flip side of that, though, Barry, is an awful day at school is way better than seeing Ali in a wrestling singlet.
That is just lies. That's lies and
you want to see.
slanders.
Nobody wants to see a long, lanky,
to be fair,
racing singlet at 7 a.m.
There's only one way to find out. Come on,
don't, because he will post a picture of himself on Instagram.
I was thinking he should go and get changed now, just while we're chatting.
I mean,
for podcast,
as we're talking about it, I've got the unicorn sat right beside me.
Excellent.
Oh man. Right, this is the worst way to end the podcast, but I feel like I need to get up and stretch because my hips. I'm genuinely my hip is now pulling me properly. Like I'm going to have to stretch. I'm going to go do some hip stretches.
I'm thinking I might get me foam roller.
But yeah, as always, it was a pleasure to speak to you again, Barry.
Likewise, it's been awesome. Thank you.
Just before we fully wind up, we've mentioned it loads on the podcast. So Barry, give us a shout out where people can find you on Instagram and what you do in all these cool workouts.
I'm on Instagram as Grapple Fit, and I've got my Sambo club as Red Star Sambo Sunderland. That's my Instagram account. Obviously, if people are on Facebook, it's just Barry Gibson, and YouTube is Grapple Fit as well. So it's just anywhere really. If you search us, I'm kind of around, lurking somewhere.
I was we'll speak again some point in the future. Just because it's fun. I don't give a fuck if anybody's listening. It's just good fun.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely good. It's awesome. I mean, it was great last time, and it's been great this time as well. It's brilliant, man. Brilliant. I was actually, when Ali messaged me about it and said you had a free slot, I was like, yeah, definitely. Count me in for that. It was good. It was good crack, The
thing is, it's nice to have. We spoke to some ridiculous, Will Willis and guys like that who are TV hosts, and they're kind of a big deal. But actually, Will wasn't that bad, But Jack Carr, ABC old New York Times best-selling author. He's got, Chris Pratt's playing, the lead character in one of his series that's coming out soon. All this kind of stuff. There's a process to getting those guys on. It's difficult.
Of course, yeah.
Ali has to speak to managers and agents and all this kind of stuff. It's nice just to be able to message somebody and go, Barry, you free this week? You want to do a podcast? Yeah, man, fuck it. That's cool. That's 100%. Really nice. That's nice. So there's a lot of work involved in these people, and it's kind of nerve-wracking, but it's also nice just to be able to speak to somebody and have a laugh and to talk some shit and talk some sense. And
that's the thing, isn't it? It's a mutual interest as well with the combat sports, the training side of things, because you guys trained just as hard as anybody, and it's nice to have it's nice to put it out there, and if people can get something from it for training tips, and if we've maybe smashed a few myths that you don't need time to train, you don't need kit to train, that's fair enough. And
but you know what? In that instance, just because you've talked about it, if somebody is listening to this and they really don't know what to do, just shout out to any one of us, and you can say, "Listen, do this. This is a very simple workout that needs nothing, and I promise you'll feel it." So if anybody does listen to it, just give us a shout. Give us a shout, and we'll one of us will point you in the right direction.
100%,
probably better than Barry because he actually knows what he's talking about. But
well, that's debatable,
But it was great fun again, and
hopefully genuinely at some point this year we might actually get down to see you down at Red
The
Star.
kill, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I know we
Yeah,
said that last time, and
Although
everything's still
now,
mad.
you know, because the Keltman's going ahead in June, I can't commit to doing. There's a few things I would like to do, but now that's happening, I have to I've got 12 weeks now, and I have to really be perfect. So I probably won't get down, you know, before that. But yeah, sometime later in the year, definitely, I'd like to get down.
Apparently, according to the British Sambo Federation, we won't be back properly until June the 21st. Anyway, when everything's kind of finished. So hopefully, we're back on track by then. But I'm not holding my breath, you know, because I'm feeling a little bit cynical down here the way things are at the minute. You know, it's a bit, you know.
Well, yeah, you know, kind of say that triathlon that they announced that the Keltman triathlon was happening yesterday, and I couldn't believe. I don't believe this. I still don't think it'll happen. It's like something will happen that'll stop it. But now they've said it's going to happen. You have to crack on and.
Oh, you've got to be ready. Yeah,
100%.
You've got to be ready.
So yeah. But yeah, man. For sure, we'll get down at some point. We'll make a weekend of it. And we'll get down and do some training down there. Have some fun.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, you'd be more than welcome. You'd be more than welcome, lads.
Awesome. Well, let's call that a wrap. Episode 60 with Barry Gibson, the Crusher of Cans. Thank you very much for your time tonight, mate. And that's episode 60 done and dusted.
Thanks again, guys. Cheers.
The Silly Goose Gang Podcast.